Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming, and shout out to the Live Coders team who's still making sure that this all works correctly. Um, I'm very proud to be part of the team, and hope to continue learning as much as I'm picking up being part of the team. I'm Jones Cropper, known as caLLowCreation in these fine social media places, and I also hang out here on Twitch, and there's the Discord, where you may notice I am accompanied by my bot here in picture today. He insists. Other than that, my commands may not work next time I stream, so go figure. Developing tools for developers. I have made a few Unity tools, and I I've been creating Unity tools from very early on. I bumped into Unity while creating a Java engine so I can make mobile games for kids. And I was just making a game where you have all these little mini games and they come popping out and the kids can pick one and play one. And while developing one of the games, I glanced over at YouTube and I saw Unity. And moreover, I saw the person using C# as the scripting language. I immediately stopped what I was doing, downloaded, because I was an avid C# fan. Frankly, I started using C# to get away from C++. So I dropped what I was doing and I downloaded Unity and I started working on this game. While making the game, I needed to transition the camera from point A to point B, and I started working on a little camera tool. And I found myself working on the camera tool more and more and more and more and more and more, and packages being set apart from the camera tools. I eventually I submitted that camera tool. I never quite finished the game. I still think about it and I still show it on stream, and I do want to finish it. But the camera tool was released using Unity 4.5.2. For those of you not familiar with how the existence of Unity back then, it was submitted in February 2015. Sadly, I just deprecated this asset, as you can see the change on the slide there. So it's couldn't maintain it anymore. I've submitted quite a few assets, and assets can be rejected for things like errors or bugs. Things like errors or bugs, and for simplicity. I've submitted an asset that I thought was useful. It's a property. You put a property attribute on a string field, and then the person that's actually picking the inputs, they don't need to type in the input, jump, or space or something. They can just select it from a drop down. And I submitted it, and Unity rejected it, and because it was too simple. They said that in the email. So I still have the asset. I use it in my own projects, but I guess it just wasn't up to par. So being rejected didn't stop me. I've made many assets since then. Today we'll be discussing three main topics that guide me through my development. Not only in Unity development, but these will be definitely using Unity to explain most of it. Reinventing the wheel, when and when not. Components versus scripting. Unity is heavily component-based game engine. You'll be developing for different users, so programmers, artists, designers. DLLs in development. Why I use the DLLs and maybe some more stuff. We use tools. We use tools to make things go faster. Maybe we can't or don't have the time to do what we're doing. We use tools because it's necessary. Maybe we don't have the expertise. Right? We can't do what we need. We use tools for a particular function, right, to help us get things done. Reinventing the wheel. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I learned to code by making things on the Commodore 64. Don't remember libraries and things like that. Just remember writing the code, and I've always developed that way. And I still have the urge to do that nowadays. But there is a reasons that I decide to or not to. Right. So when reinventing the wheel, you can learn things, right? You can learn how um, things are made, the nuts and bolts. Right? You could probably create custom functionality. So maybe you need the thing to do something or not do something. Not do something is a thing. Um, and best of all, you don't have to worry about third-party development and things in their package changes, and then you have to make changes in your package to accommodate. So here's a quick screenshot of an IRC client that I created in C Sharp that's standalone. It can do an IRC work, and it took a lot of time to learn the protocols um, and how to send an IRC request with C Sharp. Was it worth it? Yeah, it was definitely worth it. Because I don't need to depend on a third-party IRC client to show to facilitate an IRC connection with Twitch. It can connect to pretty much any IRC client, but I use it for the package shown, and plus it works at least as good as MIRC. This is my first introduction to Twitch and chatbot scripting and stuff like that, and I quickly outgrew MIRC. It was pretty low featured, and it couldn't expand. You couldn't script a whole lot. So let's look at some reasons you might not want to roll your own. As I mentioned in the slide before, a custom IRC client took a lot of time. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it took me a few months to learn what I needed to do. Writing the code was not the hard part. It's learning to all the protocols and things like that. So we may not have time, right? So you may not be able to reinvent the wheel, and doing so may set back projects and things like that. I recently took on a few learning tasks to learn test-driven development and things like that, and new technologies, frameworks. But you always have to decide when you want to or you can do that, if it will take up too much time. So and using those frameworks and game engines and things like that, they're like a sandbox environment. They provide features and code and recommendations for you to use things properly, right? And maybe the complexity of reinventing the wheel. Um, there's things that we as lone developers just can't get right. So you imagine writing your own OAuth for user or application access. You would probably never get it right, and you would probably never finish it and or get it right unless you're, into that sort of thing. This is just an example. And may introduce bugs as I did. Here's an HTTP request class I wrote in C Sharp quite some years ago. I use it for all my projects that I need to make an HTTP request. I import it, and I pass in the type I want, and I get a response, and everything's good. I added header to this recently, um, but that's not what I'm discussing. I just remembered that. I was like, wait, where's the headers? um, so I use it everywhere, and I even use it in my Unity assets, and that's a bad idea because I know Unity provides a web request class, and I use it before, but I just decide, hey, I have my own. Why would I need to use Unities. But there's a reason Unity provides a web requests class, right? It's because it's not apparent at the time why they have a web request class. This is showing here now. That doesn't mean that you can use your own unless you fully understand the engine and the sandbox. So here's an obscure reason I encountered here. Thanks to Clayman, my Twitch mod and fellow Unity developer, brought this to my attention. This is how it went one day on my stream. I was talking and telling everyone, I was showing the actual code on screen for my web request, and I mentioned, and I heard back in chat, wait, from Clayman, wait, what did you say about HTTP requests? Well, I replied, well, hey, I use my own. Um, Clayman responded, for Unity? I said, well, yeah, I've been using it for years, and I use it in the asset you use, because Clayman's working on a few projects. One of them include my Twitch Unity asset that he's using, and he has never encountered this problem. He proceeds to show me this. Let's take a look at the registry. The registry key there leads to the current version internet settings. Then at the bottom, there's a single value, the word that says proxy enabled. I have no idea what this is. I have no idea what it means, and I would have never cared until now. If you set that value to 1, make it true, and you run Unity's web C# web requests in Unity, the call will fail. And Unity knows this, and that's what Unity web requests helps prevent. There could be numerous other cases under the hood why they would build a class for you. So I've had bugs sitting in my code for years and just don't know because no one's ever bumped into it. But somehow Clayman bumped into it, and now my asset is a bit better because of it. So in the example, rolling your own web requests, no. Right, using Unity's, yes. It was written when Unity uses the C# language. I mean, almost not as a scripting language now. You pretty much have the lay of the land. Why would they do this? So pay attention to the docs and maybe you don't need to question everything. And there are developers out there. Learn. I figured, hey, mine's worked, and it's always going to work, and that's not the case. There are, and was something built that was much better. Second, components versus scripting. I build assets so other people don't have to write code. I love writing code. Like I said, reinventing the wheel is something that's near and dear to me. So this is an opportunity for me to make wheels for people to make things. So components versus scripting. Components plug and play functionality. Unity is designed for that. Scripting, low level access. The programmers can develop components for their team. Scripting for the components for the win. Definitely. All right, so it's much nicer for someone using Unity to drag, drop, change some numbers in the inspector and press play. That's how Unity is designed. And that's how I designed almost everything I use. One of the features on my assets is no coding required. And looking on my asset list, that's on more than half of my assets. So I designed everything that way. However, I'm a programmer, and I know when I grab a hold of a thing and I'm trying to use it, it has to be usable. I have to have access to the methods and members that I need on the class. And it's essential to design an extensible API, in my opinion, as well. Still, components for the win. Use your asset. Make a project with it. Import it. Build a thing. All right, and this will expose members that you need, things that you haven't exposed to developers. All right, if you have to work make a clever workaround just to get your code to work, then you need to redesign your API because someone's going to be using it and they don't have the knowledge that you have about your code base. All right, unless you have exquisite documentation, you're going to need to make it accessible. So components for the win. All right, let's see how I've accomplished this in an asset I'm working on. Hasn't the asset's been released, but the features have not been. Let me do a quick change of scene. Not scene. Having don't change scenes. My bot usually handles all this OBS stuff for me. You know. All right. So I'm gonna press play on this, and I'm gonna make an emote in chat. And we're going to see that emote show up there. Okay. So I did a emote in my chat room on Twitch. Here's that emote, and it shows up. It shows up here. So that took some writing of code and setting things up. Okay, so this is how that's done. I built a component in Unity that uses Unity's events to provide a dropdown. So you can click the dropdown and add the components you want. However, this one's a little tedious. You need to know the args that you're going to be receiving and things like that. So let's for instance, for this to work, I pass in this method. This method deactivates the thing, then it gets the texture. So it's a complicated thing. Let's create a simpler one. Let's show an emote in Unity using the assets and the code I designed. So first of all, we're going to need to create a Unity event. It's actually here somewhere. There we go. We just created a Unity event with the magic of my favorite coding feature, copy and paste. We created an emote event that takes a texture, 2D. Then we can go to the emote events and we create a reference to that monitor emote. And then we invoke to whoever subscribed just the texture part, not the entire object that contains the texture and requires all kinds of deconstructing and knowledge of the class and everything like that. Okay, then we save that. Let's head on back to Unity. So Unity is going to compile, then we'll see a new drop down here. Okay, so I'm going to delete. Well, actually, let's just delete the functionality. So let's remove what we saw before. So if I press play and I do my emote, we won't see any emotes show up. And that's fine and dandy. That's what we should see. Don't look at my BTTV emotes. And we'll just pick some cool stuff. So no emote. Let's make an emote show up. So let's add a UI raw image. It added it to that canvas, which is cool. We'll just leave it there. So we created a new event called emote events. We can open it up. Let's grab our raw image and drop it in. Let's select the texture and press play. And I'm going to do another emote in chat. Which we should see in the Thank you very much, Mr. Demon Wolf. Which we should see in the middle. So this workflow, in my opinion, is a whole lot nicer for the programmer and the person using the inspector. So let me turn this off again, and let's go to the next. Oh, I have all kinds of stuff open for this voice. I do apologize. I had everything in the right place, and then I open up all these windows to fix the mic, and they have totally thrown me off. I use DLLs in all my assets. I use DLLs for reusability mainly. The clip I showed earlier, it was littered with DLLs. All of these are existing in my project, and they're all and 3 of them are used in other projects as well. What is a DLL? A DLL is a dynamic link library. Microsoft describes a DLL as a library that contains code and data that can be used by more than one program at the same time. For my use, I needed to use DLLs for reusability. So every free version of mine needed to be turned to free or not to free. That is the question. For those that are not tech savvy and probably can't dive real deep into your EXEs and DLLs, you can use it to hide certain parts of your code as well. This is my try it compatibility DLL that I built and I add to all those projects you saw in the beginning. It's about 200 lines of code in this file, and if it adds a window in Unity, and then it helps draw buttons and things like that. We can see the buttons on every one of these we click, and if I click the button, it will open up the try compatibility window to let me know I'm in its free version. So this is built into my apps, and I can offer it free. So let's make it a not so free version. Let's go to this app. Is it a free version? Well, is it the get tried version? Well, it's not. And let's rebuild this really quickly. And we've been doing a lot of demo. I do this stuff all the time. These code bases is like my babies. So many, many, many years. This was the first code I wrote to deal with chat. The C# code. Ooh, it's compiling a nuts. That's a lot of compiling. So now all the red disappeared. All the buttons are gone. So this is now the non-tried version. And then I deploy that. And if you download the tried version and then this one, then all your code would work just fine. So that's why I use DLLs in my code. And it took me a very long time to find a way to offer a lot of code, full functionality to users, because I'm really impressed with Unity and them offering such a great platform for people to develop, design, and create and learn tremendous amount of information for free. And I use it for the same purposes. So my goal was to make sure all my assets was available for everyone, and I've pretty much hit that mark. So in recap, reinventing the wheel, it's completely up to you. You have to make that choice, and your reasoning should be sound. You have to deal with it. Components versus scripting, always build in components. Go try hard. Go as hard as use all your knowledge to get those features into the inspector so people can use, so they do not need to write code. But offer a really flexible API so programmers can offer features that you did not think of. And use DLLs if you need to share code, so you don't have to rewrite code and share code and change things in different places. It's just like you writing in a class itself. You want to keep working code in one place, so when you change it, it propagates. And with that being said, I know I'm a tools developer. I try making games. I do eventually finish onesie twosies, but I always end up making a tool. Every one of those packages was something I was making or fixing for someone else, and I needed to make a tool to do that, and I used that tool to make an asset. I'm always looking out for that opportunity. So if you want to be a Unity asset developer, that's where my passion lies. Just search for it on the internet and start and start going. Right now, I'm ready for questions if there's any. Thanks again for watching and listening, and live quarters for putting this on. So far, I've been enthralled at all the talks so far, and I will be watching the rest of them as time goes on. So looks like we have a question. Exquisite documentation. Ex- Coded Beard says exquisite documentation. We can dream. And I forgot the LUL. Yes. Well, we can. And there are some people that do take that to heart. And if you have them, then we do have some nice documentation, but it is rare, and some documentation is very confusing. Some documentations don't get to the point, and some documentations leave you reading more documentation. But it's part of the learning process. Frustrating sometimes, but it is what it is. It's the adventure that counts. Mr. Demon Wolf, that's so cool. How long did it take you to create this? Um, the nuts and bolts, I learned to do the IRC part when I started streaming quite a few years ago, 4, 5 years ago. The asset itself, I started working on it when I realized that I can make something for Unity that I didn't see on Unity. And within a year or so, we had the asset on the store. And I've been adding to it ever since, upgrading every version of Unity that's popular and stable. And so pretty soon on my stream, we'll be going through all the assets and upgrading them all to the new versions of Unity, and it'll be a lot of fun. Um, so it's something I work on all the time and on the weekends and things like that. So it took some years and it's never done. And I'm happy that you could upgrade things. Code phobia. Have you seen some good examples of Twitch integration in Unity, or some you would like to see? Twitch integrations in Unity. I'm working on the emotes like I just showed, and one of the things I discuss with Clayman, he's really deep into this stuff, is hey, I'm gonna put some emotes in text. What do you think? Yeah, and it's just yeah, that's madness. It's not gonna happen. None of the text options that Unity provides allows for easy image input into the text. So I can do it. I have an asset that pops up tooltips, and I can display images on that, but not within the tooltip. But I know the positioning. So it's gonna be a would be a very difficult task for someone to take on, and it's something that I think within the UI system would be a nice integration that Unity can have. So I'm not gonna be working on it myself. Carla, when do you think it's okay to reinvent the wheel? Sorry if I. Yes, I did answer that in the first part of the talk, but I can elaborate. So for this particular asset, I decided to write my own IRC client, and I decided that because I knew I would have to deal with someone else's code. And frankly, understanding someone else's code sometimes can be hard. So I took on the challenge. It took me some time to write my own IRC client, and there's plenty out there. But now I have full control over my code. So within that instance, I would say that was a good opportunity for me to reinvent the wheel. Um, I use it as an example, for instance. Please don't reinvent the wheel. There's plenty of things out there that can do authentications for you from experts that's been at this for a millennia. So that would be an opportunity for you to buy some wheels. Hopefully that answers your question. And the questions before, I'm sorry if I didn't answer them correct completely. Lone Wolf. In 7. Do you need to know the application much more intimately than a regular developer to be a tools developer? Unity, you do not need to know Unity more. For instance, you would need to know, however, um, another side of Unity that most people don't experience. So if you're developing a game, for instance, you probably would never need a small game for a game jam. Probably would never need a editor scripting. So, but if you're developing tools for Unity, um, writing your own editor scripts, it's probably make your life a whole lot easier. So you'll be writing scripts that run within the editor and not the game engine. So same code, just a different aspect of it, and you'd have to treat it differently because it's not in the runtime. And hopefully that answers your question there, Lone Wolf. Any seven guys? Thanks for the questions. You can keep on coming. I can read as much as I can and try and answer them. Maybe it's good. Neo Nem, Nimoy. I'm bad with names, as you can probably tell. Maybe it's good before building to check out existing projects to see how they solve similar problems. Yes, Nimoy, that is not maybe. You should definitely check out what's existing and see how they solve the problem. It will give you insight, and it may even bring you to the point. Well, I don't need to do this, but yes, that is always on a one-to-one. I watch other people develop, and that is part of the development process. Is comparing what you want to do with other things, and following up on it if you actually need to. Thanks again for the question. It's Lithney. Waiting on us. I was touched by your comment in chat. I'm still trying to recover for it, and hopefully I delivered. What tool have you made that you are most proud of, and why? The tool that I've made and I am most proud of, and why, would definitely be Pool Everything. It's it contains all the knowledge that I learned about Unity and Unity editor scripting. Um, and it was very challenging for me to allow you to pull things, spawn things, destroy things in any manner you can imagine without writing a line of code. Any existing code can integrate with it. If you have a existing code that does things, jump, shoot, pebbles or explosions, it integrates with that. Uses a lot of static reflections and just everything I've learned from C# and Unity and editor scripting. It's all in there, and I'm extremely proud of it, and that's why. Thanks for the question. It's Litany. When you're ready to finish, ma'am. So I see no more questions coming in. I do thank you guys for hanging out and sticking through it. The questions are nice as well, and you can find me on these places on the internet. I stream 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday, and so just come on by. And if I'm not streaming, I'm hanging out in another Live Coders stream. So thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Live Coders rule.